Welcome to tutorial number 3, the mixer. I'll begin by explaining the question mark next to the word mix inside the mixer view. If you go ahead and tap that question mark, you'll see a screenshot tutorial of the mixer. Go ahead and close the screenshot tutorial. Similar to what you've seen before, if you tap any track name that's inside the mixer, it will scroll horizontally so you can read the full title. To the right of the track name is a number inside 2 circular arrows. That tells you how many times the track will play before it proceeds to the next track. Go ahead and tap that number and you'll see it change. It will go all the way up to 9 times, which means you can have a track loop 9 times. And if you tap it again, you'll see the infinity symbol, which means it will loop endlessly. To the right of the looping function is a heart. This allows you to save either a single track or a mix of tracks as a favorite. Go ahead and tap the heart. This will bring up a keyboard which will allow you to give your favorite track or your favorite mix a specific name. Go ahead and type in a name. Then hit OK. You'll now see the new name that you've given the track inside the mixer. The original name of the track still remains. And if you go into your purchase tracks, you'll be able to see the original name of the purchase track. And then there's another area inside your purchase track area, which will have all your favorites that you've renamed. Next to the heart is an X. This just removes a track from your mixer. The next button on the far right is the play button, which would play the track as well as any layers added to it. You can also adjust the volume of each track. If you want a specific track to be a little bit quieter or a little bit louder, then just use the volume slider that's located on each track. Under the volume slider of each vocal track is the time length of the vocal track. And you can use this to start the track at a different time point than the very beginning. Let's jump over Add Track Layer and jump down to Add Track Main. Go ahead and hit the plus symbol next to Add Track Main, and let's add a second vocal track into the mixer. Go to Artists, select any track in there, even one of the tutorial tracks, and add that in. And now you should see your first tutorial track at the top. Then right under that, you should say Add Track Layer, and then underneath that should be the second track that you loaded in. When you have 2 tracks loaded in like this, they'll play like a playlist. The first track will play in its entirety, or it will loop as many times as you instructed it to loop. And when it's done playing, the second main track that you loaded will begin to play. And then if you look down, you'll see another plus symbol next to Add Track Main. If you want a third track to play in sequence, just add it to the next main layer. Let's go ahead and remove the second track you added. Go ahead and hit the X on the second track you added. The only track loaded in your mixer now should be this tutorial that you're listening to. Let's add a second track again. in the same location as before, but now we're going to add a soundtrack. So tap the plus next to Add Track Main again. Tap the word Sounds at the top of the window that appears. And tap the plus sign next to any soundtrack that you've downloaded. This will now load that sound into your mixer. So now you should be looking at your mixer. At the top is the vocal track you're listening to now, then Add Track Layer, and then the soundtrack that you loaded in. Now, similar to before, this soundtrack will only begin to play when the first track is completed. If you wanted it to play at the same time as the first track, then you would add it in where it says Add Track Layer. I don't want you to do that during the tutorial because it actually will start to play as soon as you add that in. But Add Track Layer is where you would add in tracks that would play at the same time as the main track directly above them. And you can add up to 3 layers. Now, I did have you add in the soundtrack onto your screen so you could see how a vocal track and a soundtrack differ. Underneath the volume bar of the soundtrack, you can change the speed of the sound. So whether it is an ASMR sound, or it is background noise, or it is relaxing music, you can change the speed at which it plays by sliding that bar either to the left for it to go slower or to the right to go faster. The next thing I'm going to explain is the player. The player is always at the very bottom of your screen. So if you notice, it's playing right now. So there's a pause button on the left. If you wanted to pause the tutorial, you could just tap that pause button at the very lower left of your screen. If you want to change the volume, you could slide the volume bar. And if you want to set a sleep timer, just tap the clock that's at the right. Go ahead and tap that now. Now you're looking at the timer setting. You can set it for hours at a time, or you could set it at intervals of 5 minutes at a time. Go ahead and pick any time, and then hit Set Timer. You'll notice that the clock turns white. This indicates that the timer is on. If you want to turn the timer off, just tap the clock again, then hit Cancel. What you can do now is have some fun. Go ahead and experiment with adding all sorts of combinations into your mixer. Select any vocal track and add that as a main track. And then experiment with different layer tracks. Try some of the ASMR sounds. Try some binaural tones. Try the relaxing music. And one of the most unexpected things that I've discovered is that I like it when there's 2 vocal tracks playing at the same time. Try it. Put a vocal track in your main track and select another vocal track and add that as a layer. Anyway, the point is to experiment. Have some fun. This concludes the tutorial, The Mixer.